So welcome to another unboxing video from theplayersaid.com. My name's Alexander, and today we're actually taking a look at a brand new game from Legion Wargames, and it's called Target for Today, and it's Bombers Over the Reich, 1942 to 1945. And this is kind of a... Let me crack this open whilst we have a little chat. So this is it's basically a massive deluxe remake of B-17 Queen of the Skies. It's a very popular old Avalon Hill solitaire game where you'd fly a B-17 and it would be doing flying for the 8th Air Force, and you'd be doing bombing runs, and you'd have a crew, and it was all very deadly and very fun and told a great story. So this is a deluxe kind of a remaking of that game to an extent. So this is a 2-inch box, which is much bigger than the other games I've played from Legion Wargames. And this is very heavy. There's a lot of stuff in it, which we'll go through here in a bit. This is designed by Steve Dixon and Bob Best, and you can read a big interview that those guys conducted with us on the website, where they kind of went through a lot of the design process and explained a lot of the decisions that they were made with regards to the game. So as you can see, the artwork was fantastic. And on the back, you know, it goes through that this is a solitaire game. It's got medium to high complexity, which we'll go through in a bit. It's a one-player game that gives you an overview of a lot of the different stuff in the game. But we're going to take a look at side of everything to get a better idea. I'm really pleased with the artwork. I think this is going to be an iconic looking box. It's going to go on the shelf nicely. That's really, really great looking game. So immediately you've got 2d6 and 2d10 here. There's also a bunch of baggies in here. So what looks like quite a large one, and you got a bunch of smaller ones here. We'll use those to organize the various counters and tokens that we've got in the game. So let's take a look. So we've got 4 rather large books here. So we'll take a look at the first one here. This is the rules of play. And it being fairly large, it's actually, if you look at the typeface, right, it's nicely spaced, and it's actually not necessarily the most dense. It is a lot of text. We'll follow through. So you got introduction, pre-mission, starting mission. So this is more often than not a lot of, like, it's in order of how you play it. So you'll be able to read the rules through, mostly, I presume, and be able to play as you go, almost. And it looks like, let's see, you got all various bombing, then you've got additional rules at the end, optional rules, and then there's looks like a bunch of extra tables at the end. That seems to be the last good number of pages. There are a lot of extra rules and tables to add in there if you'd like. And you've got some 15th Air Force and 8th Air Force. Just information here to do with the various bomb wings and the different groups within those. And there's some... So this is B-29 Super Fortress and the expansion Hell Over Korea. This is kind of... this is Steve's kind of first attempt or shot at this. B-29 is a very similar... I'm expecting this to be similar in style, but the B-29s didn't come into contact with very many Japanese airplanes because they fly at such high altitude, and it was very late war, so the game is much more a navigation simulation rather than the old B-17 Queen of the Skies. You're going to get shot down and killed by the old Messerschmitts all the time. So this one I'm expecting to be much more lively and active in that sense. So I'm going to dive through these rules. Again, this is, whilst it looks like a lot, yeah, that's really not many words to a page considering, so I think we should blow through this fairly quickly. And the good thing about these type of games is you can learn as you play, so I'm just going to go through those step by step and learn that, I think. So here we've got Top Secret Combined Strategic Targets Committee, and this is Daylight Strategic Bombing Campaign in Europe. And this book, I believe, is just targets for you. So whilst this book is massive, this itself is, let's see, does it say? This is over 50 pages long. The rulebook is like 43 pages of actual rules. This is 50 pages of targets, types of targets, and the actual historical locations. And I know they did so much research to get every single target that was actually bombed by the 8th and 15th Air Groups to have these in this. So a lot of historical detail. You could craft your own campaigns, and you can do a lot of replay value in this from that sense. So we also have here, this is the book of game tables. So this is 32 pages long. You have this iconic picture here that you'll see very often used when talking about B-17 bomb groups. I've seen that used in a lot of different websites, for example. So this is kind of the chart book that you'll be referencing, and hopefully these are, yeah, they look like they're listed in kind of turn order here. So really you'll be able to play through this book as well. So you've got all of your pre-flight stuff. So this is to do with where you'll be located within the bomb group, which cell that you're in, if you've got fighter escort or not. Then you'll have takeoff, so there'll be random events here. Most of the time you're okay, but you might have technical issues, or there's weather that gets in the way. And then they've got rules here determining where and what happens, kind of thing. You'll have system checks, make sure everything's working okay. Spoiler alert, probably something's going to break during your flight. If B-29 was anything to go by, I imagine this is going to happen a lot, that kind of stuff. Various combat tables here, so you'll check for how much German fighter resistance there is. And then how many if there's lots, they'll send out more waves, how many waves they'll do, so you cross-reference those. And then it's which types, if you encounter enemy opposition, which kind of fighters are going to come out, and we'll look at all the counters here. I'm sure there's a ton of those, but you got a great picture of 109 there. You got yourself a Focke-Wulf as well on this page. This is still more fighter appearance. There's a lot of different tables here to check against. Got yourself Heinkel there as well. So a lot of different comments. So then you have a random events table here, and then you'll roll on a table. If you have fighter escort, they might drive the Germans away, so you don't even have to fight them. Lucky you. And then you'll be assigning how the fighters attack you. So they'll come in through different directions, and we'll take a look at that on the map here in just a bit. So you'll roll to determine where they attack you and how they attack you. Then you'll resolve attacks. You shoot them, they shoot you. And then it's a case of a lot of charts to do with what happens. Do you fend them off? Do you get hit? Do you get destroyed? There's a ton of stuff. Do you take just superficial damage, for example? Or do you get hit in the cockpit and you have to roll an extra die on an extra table to see, if your steering gets shot or if your pilot gets hit? Just so much detail and sub-levels here. And to some that might seem procedural, but in a game like this with this amount of detail, it's the story that tells that's going to be the fun bit. You have a 109 flies in, strafes your plane, you get hit with a bunch of bullets, what happens? Because that's really the life that these bomber crews led. You're in a sitting metal tube with some bombs in it, and there's very little you can do in the formation that you're in to avoid enemy fire. You get hit, what happens? And the mortality rate for the bomber crews was extraordinarily high. So you'll get a lot of realism in this book, and I think that's very important when playing a simulation style game to try and recreate, at least to some extent, what some of these crews went through, and just how lethal it was and how much of a mortal job they had. When you get over the target, you'll roll to be able to see what kind of conditions you're in, and then you roll flak against yourself. So you've gone through all the enemy fighters, and then you'll get hit by target fire as well. And then there's a lot of resolving going home. Do you bomb well? And this will be affected by hits you've taken, if any of your system's been damaged, things like that. So there's a ton of stuff to go through, but really that might seem like a lot, but I presume, just like all these kind of games like Silent Victory, these kind of solo games where once you get it down, you just roll boom, 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 you know the order in which they're done and what certain results are going to look like, so it becomes very easy to play, and it's rich in the story once you kind of get it down. So this next book we have, which is 24 pages, this is more charts and tables, and this is operating instructions for the various B-17s and the B-24s that you'll be flying in this game. So this particular book is where a lot of that story from the combat's going to come from. So each one of these tables, so this is for the B-17 F and G models, and all of these tables are for those, as well as this up here. And basically what they are is it's locations of where you got hit, and then you'll reference these tables to see what exactly happened when you took damage in that area. And so there's realism that they've done a lot of research on. If you get strafed from behind, the pilot's not going to get killed, for example. So there's different results that can happen depending on where you get attacked from and how badly you get attacked. And this, and then there's subtables of, well, you got hit in the bomb bay, what happens? That's going to affect your bombing run at the end. There's a ton of different stuff. So they have those for each of the different planes in here. So you've got the YB-40 here as well, which is a variant of the B-17, and you've got charts for all of that as well. And you've got the B-24 here as well. And so there's just so much in this book with the detail and the research that I know that went into this. And this is what I'm excited for. It's not just, oh, I took a damage and it's an arbitrary, oh, I took 1 damage. That damage means something. That damage means one of your crew members was hit, and that will subsequently affect everything that crew member was able to do. Or it knocks out one of your guns, which means you can't defend as well now. It's not just an arbitrary value that was diminished from your overall hit points. And that's what makes a good story-based solitaire game to me, that there's more to it than just that. So looking else in the box here, we've got this is a zone worksheet, so this is going to take into account, I believe, all the various this is just all the bookkeeping for the missions. You'll be copying this before you actually play, so you've got a ton of different copies for it. This is your log sheet for the mission, so you've got space for notes to write down if anything special happened. You've got you can name all of your crew members. That's the fun bit, really building a crew and building a story together. You will write status if they get killed or injured in some kind of way. You'll track ammunition on this up here, and this is the fun bit, right? You waste all your ammunition trying to take pot shots at fighters, but having naming your bomber, naming where you're based at, and coming up with really a great story. That's where the fun in this particular game comes from. And so there's a few different ones of these. This is the B-17F, and so they've got one for each of these: B-17G, B-24D, B-24J, and the YB-40 there as well. So each of those have slightly different levels of ammunition for different guns they can have, different armaments, and different crews as well. We'll set those aside here. Then if you want to play an entire bomb group and run a ton of different missions, you've got this sheet, so you can do a massive protracted bomb group campaign, and there's just so much scope for what you can do with this. So this is 1942 up here. You've got 43 as well. These double-sided, no, just got 42 and 43 there so far. Then you've got a mission results log. So you've got your mission number, your bomber name, your pilot name, and the pilot status, and all of these different things along here. And you'll get the date of when you're doing it. And you'll fill out all of your details, just a log. So you'll be photocopying this, and I imagine we'll end up with hundreds and hundreds of these as you play through a bit of different missions, so that you can kind of track how your career went. You know, you've got a tour of duty, you'll have to do X amount of missions, and what that really is going to look like, you can compare with all of these here. And then, or you have a composite mission record here where you could have it condensed just to have the name, the target type, the bomb run percentage, and the various crew members here. So you could, you know, you've got 35 missions that you'll run, and that's kind of, you can do that way instead of doing all the extremely detailed ones. A lot of flexibility in this game. Got yourself a piece of cardboard here, just as a divider. Okay. So now we're starting to get into some of the maps here. So we have, this is the B-42 Bomber Group game formation board, as well as the, so we've got 1942 and 1943. So you'll be following along on these various different tracks. So if your target is in some of these different areas, so you have a high squadron and a low squadron, that's what these are. Oh, it's a formation board, okay. So you'll be placing, you'll be rolling dice, and then you'll be assigned to a place within the squadron. Or if you're 1943, you'll be placed within the cell. These are obviously more spread out as they, change formations due to tactics. So that's a board that you'll have out to track kind of where you are. And then within those cells, you'll kind of track where you are on this board. So this is kind of the main, or one of the main game boards. And this is a B-17F, and there'll be one of these for each of the different planes you can fly. So as you can see on the left, you've got all these spots for your different gunners and your different crew members. And you've got your spaces for some tokens here. And they have a bunch of different modifiers in the middle. So you'll be placing your guys out. They've got details based on your fields of fire that each of the different guns can shoot out of. So you'll have this out with your crew tokens. And then this lets you know, you can track where you are and what the formations look like as well. So there's B-17G here, and that's a very similar thing. So then you've got a B-24, which looks very, very different, as you can tell. So if you look at here, you've got a lot of the crew clustered here up front and very few in the back. And the B-17, they're a bit more nicely spaced out behind the wings here and in front there. So just different formations, and that's obviously going to affect it if you get strafed in the cockpit flying a B-24. Things are probably going to go a lot worse for you in that sense. This is the B-24J. And it looks like we've got the YB-40 here as well. So those are, you'll be using just one of those. So now we're getting into some of these. These are large cards. These are fairly thin. So this is a card that you'll just use that we'll place on a particular map, which we'll show you later. So you have the YB-40 there. You can see it looks great looking card, and it's I guess a small sheen to it, and they're all the same background. You've got a B-24, got yourself B-17 F and G there as well. Those are great. So what you'll be doing is you'll be placing these on a board. Let me see if I can dig that one out. Yeah, so that's going to go on this board here. And if you've played B-29 or B-17, this is a very familiar style of board at least. This is a fully mounted map board, so that's excellent. I'm very, very happy with that. What you'll do is, this is a universal board for whichever plane you're flying. You just punch out which one of these you're using. There's a little square here in the middle, rectangle that it's marked with. So that's kind of what you'll do. So it's interchangeable. They did that for variety's sake, so that we have more planes and more options instead of printing 4 of these out. And then as you can see, you've got these tracks. So you'd roll a dice. Oh, the ME-109s are going to attack. Well, they're going to attack from the nose on. And so then you'll roll another set of dice, and they'll tell you, do they attack 12 o'clock level, do they attack 12 o'clock high, or 12 o'clock low? And you'd put the counter on whichever one they're attacking from. And like we discussed in those books, that affects how, where they attack, what kind of damage they do, and your capacity to be able to return fire. If they're attacking you from a blind spot, your return fire is going to be very, very bad, for example. So, and if you would get attacked from 9 o'clock, you've got side guns you can fire, but you won't be able to fire out the 3 o'clock waist guns, for example. So there's a lot of different things that go into that. that is a nice mat, a nice board. I'm pretty pleased with that. So the last thing in the box, we've got 2 sheets of tokens that we'll take a look at. So the first one are these unbelievably beautiful airplane counters, and these are all the German fighters that you'll be going up against. So you've got 109s in the corner. I'm going to just punch these. These are huge 1-inch counters. They pop out really easily. Let's take a look at those. So you got 109s, you got 110s, and they have the date on there, and they have an attack value as well. I believe that's an attack value. It might be a health value. But they included some really cool different things in here. So you got Stukas, you have the ME-163 with late war experimental plane that they had going on there. They included some really neat little bits and pieces. You got ME-262s up here. You got Focke-Wulfs. These are just fantastic looking counters, and these are going to serve us really, really well. And you have here, you'll see you've got these little red ones. I believe these are ace pilots. So these are going to do a lot more precision damage to you, so you better watch out with those guys. And those are single-sided. They don't have a reduced side because they're either there attacking you or you shoot them and they just go off the board. So that's those. Those are just beautiful. And Legion Wargames always does those. B29 has this unbelievably great Japanese counters as well that look just like that. They're fantastic. So this... Oh, I'm punching these out by accident. These are extremely well cut. You can see they're just falling out of here almost. So you've got your crew counters up here of all your different crew members. And you've got some, looks like blank ones here. Maybe you can customize on those if you wanted to. So you've got oxygen out tokens, heat out tokens. All of these are kind of bookkeeping ones for different events that happen to you. You've got, these are going to mark on the board. So this goes back to, let me just put it here. This board here just to let you know where you are within the formation. And then you've got these green and ace pilots that'll be flying against you. You've got some tokens here for various damage levels that you can take as well. And then you have these target tokens that you'll use, KIA and frost markers as well. So these are a lot of these, again, single-sided, but these are just punching. I mean, I'm like, it's hard to keep them in the sprue of anything. But those are punching just great. Those are beautiful art counters. And that's what you want from a solo game. You want to have a game that tells a great story, that's fun to play, and that looks great on the table. And like most of their games, this just knocks it out of the park with component value. There is so much in this box and so much game to play. I can't wait to get this started. So watch out for a review on this one coming soon. And appreciate the guys over at Legion Wargames for making an unbelievably great product here. So thank you very much for watching. I've been Alexander from theplayersaid.com.